Hi there, this is Lori KIRSTEIN with the Goodbye Good Girl Project, and today we are starting something brand new. It is called Women Doing Business Differently, because there are so many of us who are out here just saying, the old post-industrial revolution complex thing, it's over, it's done. We want to do things differently. We want to be authentic. We want to structure things the way we want to. We want to work together. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. And I want to introduce to you my very first guest on this particular portion of the Goodbye Good Girl Project. Her name is Jeanne Gallagher. And it's because of her that we have Women Doing Business Differently. Because in a conversation we were having, she just inspired me and those words dropped in and I'm like, well, you have to be the first guest. So let me introduce you to Jeanne. Jeanne has created a really cool platform. She is promoting female entrepreneurs with her business, which is called Discover Rising Tides. Awesome. The three pillars of her business are support, acknowledge, and learn. I'm in. She's launching a podcast on March 17th. So if you're seeing this after that, hey, you're in for a wealth of information. And in her podcast, she's going to explore a really critical and life-giving connection with the earth, the connection with and the importance of the outdoors in maintaining life balance for business owners. I mean, who doesn't need that as a business owner? Good Lord. The fact is that Jeanne has also been a financial advisor for 16 years and a Dave Ramsey SmartVestor for 7 years. She is the first of the women I've met and am interviewing who is doing business differently. And I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I remember when we were first talking about you being interviewed before we even got to the whole Women Doing Business Differently thing, you were saying, I just don't do things the way other people do things. And I would love if you would talk about that moment where you went, okay, I'm doing it this way and I don't like it. And I'm going to do it this way instead. I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So I think it comes into, everything comes down to sales, no matter what business you're in. There's always a sales component, and sales always makes me uncomfortable because I feel that there's a lack of space that's been provided for open conversation. It is one person telling another person what they should have, what they should need, without asking, how do you feel about it, or giving them permission to express how they feel or express an opinion. So halfway through my career as a financial advisor, I really had to take a look at how I wanted to operate my business, because it is my business and it had to be genuine. So I took a step back and said, how do I want to be perceived, but how do I want to communicate with people, clients, potential clients? And that's where the education piece came in. And that's when I was able to identify it, saying that financial wellness begins with education. So with that platform, it gave me space to be able to slow down and listen. And the process sometimes takes a little bit longer because I want interaction from my clients. And it changed everything. It made me more comfortable, and it allowed me to be myself instead of being a different person when I'm, quote, at work.
That is really interesting, because I just had a conversation this morning with a prospective client who had done a behavioral assessment that I gave him. And he said, I don't know, what is this measuring? I mean, I'm different with my kids, than I am when I'm at work. And I had to wonder, I mean, of course, we have different aspects of ourselves that we sort of let out of the box when we're home. But for somebody like you and somebody like me who really put a lot of stock in being authentic all the time, that changes the game, doesn't it?
I think so. You have to measure what authentic really means. And it's different for everybody. And I'm not saying that another way to do business is wrong. I'm just saying that it wasn't right for me. So, and everybody takes a different approach to whatever they do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not comfortable either with like the whole right, wrong sort of thing. That doesn't work very much for me. But I do have extremely strong opinions about quality of life. And I think that the way that I look at business and the way that I offer my consulting for people is through the lens of let's let go of anything that stops us from really having our full expression, whatever that means for each of us. Let's stop taking all of us, all of our humanness, and trying to put it over here and then go to work. What are we going to work as? A machine? It doesn't make sense.
I think that's really true. And what do you find when you're having that conversation with people? How is that accepted, or what is their reaction?
Well, I mean, I've spent a lot of time working on translating. And I don't mean translating what they're saying. I feel people very easily. I read layers of data from what they're saying, from the word choice and how they operate. And there's like so much that I've gotten from my years in sociolinguistics and acting and all of that. And so I translate me to them. So when I came into the meeting this morning, I was like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm fine, thank you." And I just brought it down.
Yeah, trying to read where people are coming from is really important, and I find that that is the basis of what I have to do, because without that, before that first interaction, I don't know them, and during the first interaction, I still don't know them, because I don't know how comfortable they are revealing the important things that we have to talk about. So there's a ton of relationship building that has to happen. And quite often when I have meetings in person or virtually, there's a small portion of the meeting that's business, and the rest of it is all personal, because that personal piece is way more important than the business conversation, because they have to learn to trust me, and I have to sometimes be quiet and listen. And that's all kind of hard for me sometimes.
I get that.
Inside your head, it says, shut up and listen. And, but it's also begins a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. And so my job is to try to find all the pieces that are important. And sometimes it's the pieces that aren't said that are important, and read between the lines and try to help them pull out what they really mean, or what they really want, or what are their goals. And quite often there can be challenging conversations, not because it's against each other, but the challenging conversations are having people realize that there might be a life change that has to happen in order to hit the goals. You know, how important are these goals? And so that comes back to the relationship building piece, and creating a space for them to be comfortable, to be authentic for themselves, not just for me, but for themselves.
I would think that makes it actually, that the way you do business makes that easier than if for a minute or for the rest of the time you're going, and here is your profit and loss, and here's what you have to do for this, and here's your savings, and then by the way, you need to move, or I don't know. Is it an easier transition?
For me, it is. So I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, It is, because it is more genuine, and it is not coming from a sales environment. It's coming from a problem-solving environment, or a curiosity and an investigative thought process that creates a picture. And that's really what we're doing through the beginning conversations, or the conversations that I have with people. It's there to paint a picture, and the picture that paints, sometimes in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do here. But with enough questions and enough time, the picture starts to paint itself. And sometimes in their minds, it's creating at the same time it's creating for me.
I love that. I love that co-creative process.
Yeah.
You're also building a real support system for women entrepreneurs. So how did that emerge for you?
It came from somewhere. That's a good question. You know, it evolved, I think, just as this project that you're doing evolved based on a conversation. The same thing really happened for me too. I had an idea, but then I pulled in a couple of dear friends and people that I've worked with on a professional basis. One is she's a personal and business coach that I've used, and the other happens to be somebody that I have an immense amount of respect for as a yoga teacher, but also as a person. So both of them bring different values to the table. And when I came to this thought, my first thought was, I need to bring these two people together who don't know each other, but they are important to my life, to bounce some ideas off of, to have an idea. Is this idea even fruitful? So I introduced them in a Zoom call because we are in a pandemic, of course. And so we all met virtually. And so the introduction was, here, meet each other, and here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And so that's where the process started. And I started to, build the website, and not really knowing, I couldn't communicate enough of what I wanted to have somebody else do it. So I had to piece together some things and let it self-evolve first. And then the business personal coach person said, okay, let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. And what she did was, she did what I do for other people, to be honest. She asked me questions, and she let me figure out, whether she knew the answer or not, I don't know. But she let me figure out what direction the platform really should take, because I was actually starting to head down another platform that seemed like the right thing to do. But she brought it out. She brought out what was deeply inside of me, that I want, the direction that I wanted to do, because it's what's important to me. And for me, the outdoors and being outside and having that experience helps balance my professional life and my brain, and keeps me on track.
I'm thinking how, if we don't do that, we end up like Neo in the Matrix. We're just plugged into this Zoom thing all day long. And I mean, as soon as we get off this call, then I am going to go take a walk, actually. Mm-hmm. And so you are actually supporting me just in talking about the topic. Mm-hmm. I thank you. It's so important.
It really is. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that have great habits or understand they have a need to be active, be outside, whether it's hiking or bicycle riding or whatever it happens to be. Right. And I know that they have some great tools that they've self-learned, or maybe learned from others, that they can share with others that might need that encouragement. And I'd like to maybe be a conduit. And selfishly, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to help develop myself too.
It's interesting. I don't see that as selfish. I think it's like one of the unpaid perks of being a coach or a teacher. You get to keep growing. You get to keep learning. I love that. Have you ever heard of a product called Kangoo Jumps?
No.
You should look that up, because they are these cool things you put on your feet. They end up looking a bit like an eye.
Oh, I have. Yes. I know somebody that has some of those.
I want some Kangoo Jumps. I've been wanting those for, I don't know, 8 years now.
I saw that and I'm like, I'm fairly coordinated, and that was past my mental ability to make my feet do that.
Be next to a fence when you do it for the first time. Yeah. So what I'm interested in also is, there are a lot of ways in which we women are coming together right now. And of course, a lot of women that I know are putting together networking meetings and mastermind meetings and things like this. It sounds like what you're doing is different than that.
I think so. And that's where we actually met, through a networking meeting.
Yeah.
Online. And I listen to a ton of podcasts. And it's interesting. I was actually hiking with my dog, and thank goodness for Abby. She helps me get outside too, because sometimes you need somebody, or she has a body, somebody,
Yes.
force you out of the habit of working, because working becomes a habit. And it's when you're really in the habit, it's hard to do something else. And, you know, I always joke that I'm really good at not working, but once I get into the groove, it's hard to get out of my chair and 12 hours go by. Right. So, so when Abby and I were out the other day, I was really, you know, thinking about the importance of being out there. But I also noticed that, you know, I do listen to a ton of podcasts, but when I'm hiking, I don't.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, because when I'm hiking, I can't hear the birds. I can't hear the brook. I can't hear what's going on. And that's the whole reason that I'm out there. But the reason that I'm doing this a little bit differently, this networking piece a little bit differently, I think it comes down from a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, and whether it's She Explores, which is a great podcast about women in hiking, and many and very, very diversified people that are on there and many different interests. But it exposes me to other thought processes, and in an environment that either I can, you know, listen to again or pause and contemplate.
I do feel that human beings, women and men, have been just removed from our natural rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think women have retained more of it, perhaps, just by dint of being more connected emotionally, being more socially allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily allowed in corporations so much to feel emotion, but in any case, I do feel like we've got a sort of an in on that one, and yet it's still really super difficult.
Yeah,
Like,
and one of the areas that I think that's challenging with the networking, and whether it's networking in person like we used to do, or the Zoom networking, it's not authentic. It's very, sometimes it depends on the environment. Well, we met and it was an authentic meeting, but a lot of times it is very much that Twitter 140 characters, 30-second elevator speech. And there's no conversation. It is, here's what I do, here's what I do, here's what I do, and wanting somebody to just buy your stuff. And through the conversation, like we're having, you know, the conversations that we're having, or the conversations that you can have one-on-one virtually, and you don't know where that conversation always is going to go, but it's, I think that talk back and forth is really important, because even when you're networking in person or going to chamber events, sometimes it feels like a popularity contest, and you feel like you're the last one getting picked for kickball in the playground. So I detest those.
Oh my God. I used to hate networking with an absolute purple passion, because I felt about it like exactly like you just said. And like, you know, I got to walk in here and I got to be so on. I got to be so good about what I'm saying.
Exhausting.
Oh, you know, and then something happened. And I want to also bring in the thing about sales that you said. It's like sort of telling people what they need to have. So something happened around both the networking and the sales for me in the last few years. I took a job doing phone sales. So I was, you know, hello, thank you for calling. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? And I knew I would never survive if I was going to do that as either a robot or not caring. I'm incapable of not caring. So I turned it into a game of defang the customer, I called it. So people would call and they wouldn't expect a real human. They would expect that robotic, well, how can I help you? What do you need? What do you want? Okay, it's $5. Thank you. Bye. And instead I was like, hey, what's up? How you doing? And they'd be like, oh, what? And so I turned it into this game. And then I turned the stories and the connections into a blog, all names and facts changed to protect the innocent, and turned that into a book. And it became like a thing for me. Then networking, we end up on Zoom networking, and I'm like, I can't do this if I have to be doing my elevator pitch. So I started just saying, hey, y'all, here's what I like to do, and changing the game, because that's what I love to do, is change the game.
I don't conform well either.
No conforming. No. But we still are in this crazy world that has all these rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's so important that we're doing our businesses very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think we give ourselves enough credit for that?
No, not always. That's part of, I think that's part of the reason that I want to be able to reach out in a different way and support other people that are doing that as well, just as you're doing here, because I think that that's important. But then I also wonder, how much congratulations do we need for it?
What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, I think that if we can do business differently and within our comfort zone and be authentic, and that word's coming up a lot today for some reason, but to be true to ourselves, but also to be true to the people that we're working with, whether you're a business owner with a staff or you're independent like I am. I don't have a staff, but it's that internal and external customer. So your internal customers as a business owner are your staff and your employees, because they might be the face of your business to the external customer. And so for me, I have just external customers, and how do with a capital C customer, right? Client, and capitalized is important because they are important. And how you're perceived and the success of your business and your comfortability within your business. And I think it allows yourself the ability to grow. And if you can grow and expand and help more people, that should also be part of the congratulations. You're doing a great job.
I think that congratulations, now that I've said it, it's an odd word actually for this. Excuse me. I'm trying to uncross my legs and it's proving difficult. Okay. Because I've got my table up real close to me. It's fun. I mean, we women, we've learned from the time we came into the world that we're supposed to sort of, our main job isn't about us, right? It's sort of about others. Are others comfortable with us? Are others liking us? Are others served well enough by us? I mean, it's just so outwardly focused. And so it's interesting. The women I have in my Powerful Women Leadership group, we've delved into business stuff, but we're also delving into personal growth and spiritual growth, because internally, we're not even aware a lot of times of how hard we are on ourselves. Right? And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for us to feel really touched by ourselves, really approved of by ourselves. And I love ushering us into that. And I love the women who are ushering us into that, into saying, we matter a lot and we matter to ourselves.
Well put. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Yes, that's super important. Where do we go from here? It's just such a great conversation. And I'm loving that we're stepping into something that is about that authenticity and is about that comfort. I know what I wanted to say to you. You were talking about how your other way of doing business, your new way of doing business, new for yourself. And I'm going to argue that it's really new for the world, because so many of us are doing it. You're bringing a whole different energy into your business. So that changes things on levels I don't think we even see. And we're doing it en masse exponentially. The question I have for you is, how do you, since you're not selling, is the part where people go, I do want to do this business thing with you, does that just emerge from the conversation?
I think it's understood.
Interesting.
And it is part of the conversation, because they're, selling and telling, and or telling and selling versus teaching and implementing. And so the teaching and the implementing part is what works more naturally for me. So providing value and providing or acknowledging how they feel, right? And acknowledging what they're going through and supporting them through the process, and teaching them something because teaching is empowering.
Yes.
And I've had people, professional people that are successful in their own space, tell me that I've empowered them in their financial space. And it's not because I did anything different. It's because I taught them something about what they already had. So now they're more emotionally able to understand, but also more emotionally able to accept how it works and what might happen, good or bad. But also gives them the foundation to have a conversation that allows the I'm not happy, or I don't understand. Because if you're talking to somebody that's proficient in their own area, for them to turn around and say, I don't understand this, and it's something that they already have, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult, because the ego stands in the way of being vulnerable.
It does. It really does. I love working with that. I love working with giving women the experience of walking beyond that comfort zone just a little bit. Doesn't it? It's not like you're going to strip naked and run down Main Street. It's not that.
Thank goodness.
Sorry.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I know I would not be down for that. Sorry. Yeah. That whole streaker thing when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to leave that to you. That's not my thing. Yeah. God, I lost my train of thought. Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
We were talking about egos and vulnerability.
Egos and vulnerability. Yes. And I remember hearing a story. There was a story I read about, a true story about a group in a corporation that was meeting. They're having a meeting, and in came the owner. And owner, CFO, CEO, the head kahuna. And he said, I want to have a very honest conversation with you. And he became part of this really reorganization of the way that everybody worked in relationship to each other, because he said, honestly, I'm so scared of failing you all. He says, I don't sleep well because I feel such a responsibility, and I'm terrified. And their hearts melted. Just to say, I mean, and it seems so little to me, but I'm a crazy actor. So, like, it takes a lot to get me out of that particular comfort zone. But to be able to just say, I'm frightened because I care. It's vulnerability, but it's actually, for some, that is like breaking through like concrete. It's huge. But even if it's a small thing, when you're human, people, they feel comfortable. They get to be themselves. They can warm to you. I mean, it feels like going way back in time to like cottage industries. When you went to the local, store. I'm thinking of old Westerns I've seen. You're like, hey, Mr. Smith, I need some of this. Oh, well, there's this kind, and then there's this kind, and this kind will be better this way, and this kind. Which would you like? It seems like we're sort of connecting two ends to me.
Yeah, I think so. And part of it for me is I'm a small town person. I grew up in New England and Maine and New Hampshire, and my kids grew up in Maine. And it's that small town where you walk down the street and people. We've been going home yearly now, but there was a span of maybe 10 years that I didn't go home. And my son as well. And he went home with his wife and family, and he was walking down Main Street and people are saying hi to him, and he hadn't been there in 10 years. And his wife is looking at him going, are you kidding me?
Where is she from?
Here, California. So she's like, are you kidding me? She's actually from the same town we live in, and she doesn't see that many people downtown that she would maybe know, but for Shannon, he knew everybody, of course. And so in that happens where you recognize, or it's that connection that we have with people that we're missing.
Yes.
And I think, social media has a ton to do with that. And I'm guilty of it all the time. You know, our face is stuck in our phone versus having conversations.
Right. Right. And it's, some people really hate Zoom. Like they feel like it's very impersonal. They feel like they can't connect.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it is my lifeline. I'm pretty balanced as far as being extrovert, introvert. I'm an ambivert, apparently that's the word. And yet I mean, I get my energy from connecting with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I really get a lot of energy there. And I live alone. So if I didn't have Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
that would, you know, so I know how to connect with people. I make it real.
Mm-hmm.
I got that. And which one are you? Do you feel like this is a little bit removed, or, I mean, it is, I mean, I can't touch your hand. I can't shake your hand.
Not totally. I before career number 2, before this career, I actually worked for a credit card company in Maine for 10 or 12 years. And that was all phone based. And so, but we're connecting with people, and people cringe at the thought of, you know, credit card company, how awful. But the environment and the culture of that company was something that really shaped who I am today, from customer service to empowering employees. I could go on for hours about how, you know, the benefits of all of that, but that was a very much of our remote conversations and connecting with people. So this is, yeah, having a Zoom is very connecting to me, for me, because I can actually see people. And quite often when I'm doing this year has created probably 98% of my client interactions is Zoom, where before it would be in their home, because I would typically travel to meet people. And so there's times where they are not turning on their camera, but I am, because I don't need to see them, but I want them to be able to see me, so that they can not just hear what I'm saying, but see how I'm saying it, because that visual piece is important to make sure that they understand that I'm listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, and it's the same in acting, actually. If you know, in casting, do I like the look of you? Do I resonate with you? Is there something about you that reminds me of, I don't know, that past person I used to be in love with or date or whatever? You know, it's so important. Is there anything else that you can think of that you would like to mention about your podcast, which is coming up? Or
yeah, I'm really excited about that. So, and you might hear some background noise because my dog is making noise out there, which the importance of working at home, right? So I'm really excited about the podcast, because what I'm really looking to do is to, you know, explore the connection and the importance of the outdoors, and how it helps people maintain life balance, right? And how they maintain their balance within their business, but also how they maintain themselves outside of business. And because it's important to me, you know, just even being barefoot outside, it doesn't mean that we're all running marathons, but it is the fresh air and listening to the birds, or riding your bicycle, or paddling on the river, or whatever it happens to be. Those are the things that resonate with me, and I think that they do with others. So I want to be able to explore that, to learn from them, but also maybe it'll touch somebody else.
For sure. And I mean, I will sit in here. I'll sit in this apartment sometimes for 3-4 days. That's a bad idea. Get out, Lori, get out quickly. Yeah, we have to balance ourselves. And you were saying before we got on to do this, that touches everything. Spiritual, psychological.
It's different for everybody. Yeah. And everybody's different. So you can't really, you know, the term life balance, everybody's using, and it's kind of worn out, but it's also important, because you can't really identify or pin another more specific term onto it, because it's different for everybody else. And it's not for me to decide how it touches you, right? It's for you to decide how it touches you, but it's also, maybe it's for me to help you, encourage you to do it.
Well, I think there is nothing more woman-based than to take finance, the outdoors, women, community, you know, all of these facets of a whole, of a 360 way of living. That to me is like the definition of how we are redefining things. And I'm so glad you're doing it.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yay.
And I'm really looking forward to your platform here as well, Laurie, because what you're doing and defining that and exploring this piece is, I think, is really important as well.
Thank you. And I feel like you do. It's like, I'm not really here to define it for anybody, but I am here to explore. I am the endless questioner and the visionary, and I'm here to endlessly explore and let people take new definitions and run with them, which is how it should always be. So what I'm going to do is I will put your information into the episode description so people can get in touch with you about any and all of what you're doing.
Whatever, any side of it, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I'm going to be working with you on the financial side. And I will definitely, when I get my Kangoo Jumps, I will take my phone out and I'll be like, watch this.
Don't expect me to do it back.
Okay. I promise I won't require that or request that. Thank you so much for inspiring this and for being my first guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.